So currently, you are a citizen of nowhere.
Shh. Spoilers ahead.
Hear me now, believe me later. I am going to pump you up. Hey everybody, and welcome to Cinemattraction. I'm Heat Guy Jay, and this is Cold to the Bone.
Sir Connor.
Oh. I didn't expect you were going to say that.
How are you? What have you been watching this week?
Oh, well, I've been watching the films that we're going to see.
Have you watched anything else this week?
Not really. I've watched a couple of programs, but I've pretty much forgotten them.
What
because
have you been watching? What programs have you been watching?
Not a lot, really.
Oh, gee whiz.
I've had a look. I was going to check out Ant-Man again.
Why?
I've watched it once, but I'm going to check it out again.
Don't watch it. Ant-Man 3 is terrible.
I've got a little bit lax in watching films recently.
Why?
I don't know.
Have you been listening to anything good for our day viewers? Or playing
Yes,
anything
I have
good?
been listening to something.
There you are.
On constant repeat.
Go on.
Me, You and God by Jadena.
Okay.
His newest album. Out
decent,
now. You can get it on Amazon.
There we are. Beach House put out a really good EP this week called Become, which I thoroughly recommend.
Are we here to talk about Beach House? Or are we here to speak about Jadena?
Speaking of music, have you heard a band named Austrian Death Machine?
No.
Okay, so they're an American thrash metal band featuring the singer from As I Lay Dying.
I've heard of that band.
Okay, so Austrian Death Machine are an Arnold Schwarzenegger tribute band of sorts.
Okay.
Right, so their song titles are from Arnie, are basically Arnie quotes.
Right.
So you've got like, I'll be back.
Get to the chopper.
Get to the chopper and stuff like that. But the songs are constructed around those...
Right, okay. Around those movies?
There's like 3 albums and a Christmas
Really?
EP as well.
Yeah, but you say that, but Joe Pesci put out a Christmas CD and nobody knew.
Did he? Well,
Yeah, he put out an actual record.
Did he do a rap song as well?
Yeah, I think he did.
Horrific.
And he also, he as I said, he did a whole record under the, in My Cousin Vinny.
Yes.
Under that caricature.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fine. The Terminator is a sci-fi action film from James Cameron. A terrible war breaks out in the fictional Eastern European nation of Krakosia. Tom Hanks stars as Viktor Navorsky, a Krakosian man who travels to New York, only to be denied entry as Krakosia is suffering a military coup, placing him in a sort of limbo. The events back home result in him being unable to enter the US or be able to return back to Krakosia, so he is essentially forced to live within the airport terminal, an international neutral area of sorts, until the whole thing blows over. Here, he falls for beautiful air steward Amelia and is tormented by promotion-chasing airport commissioner Frank Dixon. Meanwhile, in the not-so-distant future of 2029, a jolly great big scuffle breaks out between humanity and the machines. Resistance leader John Connor dispatches soldier boy Kyle Reese to crank that back to 1984 to protect his beloved mother Sarah from a cyborg assassin, also sent back in time to kill her, eliminating John Connor as a consequence. A critical and commercial success, despite enduring a troubled production, taking $78 million reduced from a $6.5 million budget, which is pretty good, earning a spot on the United States National Film Registry for its cultural significance and spawning a whole franchise, launching the careers of Arnold Schwarzenegger, Linda Hamilton, Michael Biehn, and the highest grossing filmmaker in history, James Cameron. What do you think of The Terminal?
Well, firstly, I just want to say, Orion Pictures, baby.
Everyone loves Orion.
Orion Pictures, RoboCop. I found the first half of this film very boring. I didn't like the whole airport thing with Tom Hanks. When the robots came into it, that one robot guy with the foreign accent.
Yes.
Hello, yes, I will be coming back. Do it. I will be coming back to the police station, he says in the film.
That's exactly
That's
what
the
he says.
iconic line. I will be coming back to this police station.
Quotable.
Yes, so...
There's an American band called Austrian Death Machine that parodied that very... So what do you dislike about the film then?
What?
Because I believe you don't really speak favourably of this.
What, the Terminal or the Terminator?
What do you think of the Terminator?
Oh. It's got an unforgettable theme. Yeah.
Sure.
I don't like the rest of the synthy theme in the film.
I
and
like
the orchestra crashes. I
like it.
I don't.
Okay, so what are your general thoughts on the Terminator?
I think it was a groundbreaking film of its day.
Absolutely.
It's something like, like Alien and Star Wars and all those kind of franchises.
Yep.
And it's just one of those things that's, as I said, it's unforgettable.
Yeah. So why do you hate it?
The reason I don't hate it, but I find bits of it a bit boring.
Fine.
I think it's a little bit kind of like you could replace Arnie with a serial killer and turn it into, a murder type.
John Carpenter's Halloween is a massive inspiration to James Cameron. For
this is a futuristic version.
There is an alien vibe to this as well.
Yes, and it's the alien thing as well.
Unstoppable killing machine stalking its victims.
Yeah. So that's mainly, and I do find bits of the film, I just can't help it, just really slow.
Sure. Okay. I disagree, but yeah, sure.
Okay. But I was going to say that my boy Gremmers is in the gun shop.
Certainly is.
Him.
Sure.
You know him?
I
don't know the actor's name.
I don't know the actor's name either.
Mr. Fudderman.
Mr. Fudderman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's in it. I just wanted to mention that.
Shout out. I know he's listening.
And I want to talk about Pugsy the lizard.
Okay.
As well.
Sure.
I want to spill some gin for him.
Okay.
Because I think he may have died in the, when Sarah Connor's roommate, Ginger, is killed. He might have got killed in that scuffle.
Jub-Jub.
Yeah. That's not it is Jub-Jub, isn't it? It all comes back to The Simpsons. Yeah, I was thinking of this while I was watching the film, and I was thinking, imagine if the Terminator had got it wrong and thought he was her son.
What, the Jub-Jub?
The Jub-Jub, yeah. Instead of John, right, later on, and then Pugsley goes and builds a reptilian army to fight the Skynet machines.
Well, that all makes sense.
Like in Mortal Kombat.
Oh.
Like Reptile in Mortal Kombat, a whole lizard people, or like Dr. Connors in, Spider-Man.
There you are.
That's an interesting thing to think.
I'm sure. I mean, in this universe, why not? You've got time-travelling Terminators, for crying out loud. You can get away with more or less anything.
That's what I mean. I also thought to myself how, I was thinking about how Carl Reese must have been difficult for his character to sort of express how out of place he is. How terrified.
Yeah.
Because if you think about the beginning of the movie...
What day is it?
Yeah, I don't think anybody actually thinks about how terrified...
What year?
He's like a robot, isn't he, that police guy?
Yes. Yeah, kind of.
He's like, 12th May.
Yeah, 12th May. Thursday.
Third. But it must be quite sort of frightening to... it's like the idea of going forward in the future, like Isaac Newton, being here and going, what is this devilry, this television, and what is this sorcery,
this heresy?
Yeah. Can you imagine if you came from a sort of apocalyptic landscape and then suddenly you're thrust back to where there's everything?
Yeah, the 80s.
Yeah. Kind of like the Matrix in reverse, if you think about it.
What do you mean?
Well, because Neo thinks Neo is actually from a like that. But he's living in that.
He's living in the Matrix while the real world
is going on. But Carl Reese
on.
is living in the apocalyptic landscape, and he goes back where...
Where
you know what I mean?
Neo is living in paradise, and he comes into the horrible real world.
Yeah.
We'll be talking about the Matrix next week.
We will, yeah.
I think it's actually really good. It's very, very economical and very, very quite well paced. I think the story, as you say, is very, very simple.
Yeah.
And James Cameron knows precisely how to get from A to B very, very efficiently.
Yeah.
He knows how to escalate the tension, and he knows where to drop a nice, cool car chase or a nice, cool set piece of some sort.
Yeah.
I think the climax is absolutely thrilling and
fantastic. The last 10 minutes is brilliant.
Nice whole themes of tyranny and hegemony, to some extent, anyway, and the consequent rebellion. Questions of ethics, because Skynet is a sort of military artificial, AI.
Yeah.
Created by Cyberdyne Systems, and Cyberdyne Systems create the monster, but ultimately lose control of the monster. So there's some iffy ethics and
I think
corporate
what I like about
responsibility going on, which I think is interesting.
The second one compared to this one is that this one doesn't have a great deal of story,
There's
a great
not
deal
much,
of background. No.
For something as sort of convoluted as like future wars going on, future soldier and future assassin it's quite convoluted in its own way, but it's quite efficiently told, I would say.
And the second one, you just get so much more out of it.
Oh, it's really fleshed out.
Then, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like the first one. And also, now, unfortunately, the makeup and the special effects are absolutely horrifically bad.
There are some great little gore scenes. They would have glorious dummy shots.
They would have been amazing. They were amazing back in the day.
Yeah,
I mean, this film terrified me.
Sure.
I remember it must have been, this film came out in, was it
1984?
Yeah. So this must have been about 86. I was
Sure.
like, I think it was my
I don't think I saw it that young.
stepbrother's party,
Okay.
and he had two films. One of them was for us, which was Oh God, You Devil. George Burns,
okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the other one,
deep.
right, that was for us, us young'uns.
Right.
And my stepbrother Chris, who was probably about 12 or 13 at the time, maybe 14.
Sure.
He had Terminator.
Right.
And I remember going into the room and seeing some of it, and my mum telling me to leave because, like, don't watch that. You're not allowed to watch that.
Sure, I was. Yeah, about my upbringing and my.
You know what the problem is? My mum has
watching
put.
of horror
My
movies at a young
mum
age.
is a tyrannical woman. You know why?
Your mum's lovely.
When it
How
comes to cinema, she is, because you know what she does, right? I'm a child. I see a glimpse of a movie, and I think, oh, that looks sort of, oh, it's kind of interesting, but maybe a bit scary. And my mum comes along, takes me away from it, and says, "That's the scariest film you've ever seen, so never watch it." Right?
She's just being a good parent.
But she did it with so many films that I was just, I wouldn't watch Poltergeist until about like a couple of years ago.
I think I got you onto Poltergeist.
Yes, and I was
it's the
so
most PG horror you've ever seen.
I was so terrified of it when I was a kid. And my mum was like, "Oh yes, it is terrifying," and all this. And my mum like helped promote the, hype up the terror for these movies.
We had a VCR when I was young, and there was just VHSs littered around. My sister had VHSs and stuff like that, cassettes.
Yeah.
I would just sort of borrow them and just watch them. So I was watching like Hellraiser and all these like twisted, nasty movies.
But Mum, if you're listening, please don't think I'm having a go or nothing.
No.
Because
We love you, Jackie. We should get her on for an episode
lady.
once.
We should get her on here.
Absolutely.
My mum loves everything, especially big blockbusters.
Okay, well, back to town.
Like this film.
So what do you think of the aesthetic? What do you think of the look of the film? You must like the look of the movie.
I do like the grittiness of the film, of the first one. I do like the grittiness and stuff. There's a lot I do like about it. As I said, the scene at the end with that, and the Terminator coming and everything is wonderful.
Torso.
Yeah, it's terrifying. It's brilliant.
I like. You just get back into we'll get into that part in a second, but like the cold and cool tinted photography of it, that gritty. As well as the use of nighttime scenes. I think
I was going to say that more about the second one. I like the look of the second one better.
Sure, yeah, fair enough. As well as the various sort of neon lit interiors.
I think it's more neon-y, this one, isn't it?
Well, it gives it a naturalistic kind of gritty quality, which really, I feel, places the viewer into the events. I also noticed
that the way that Reese acts in the tape session with the Doctor, who's from the second one, isn't he?
We'll get into him in a moment. Yeah,
is exactly how Sarah acts in the second one.
Yeah, kind of.
The performance is almost exactly the same how she behaves.
Yeah,
echoed.
She's kind of better, I think.
I think her one is much better.
The second guy. Well, let's get into the performances then. So, what do you think of Arnold as the T-800?
Brilliant.
Yeah,
brilliant. He is totally cold.
This launched his career.
Yeah. There's no there's no emotion or nothing. No. He shows nothing in that film.
He speaks brilliant. Only 17 lines or 100 words, I believe.
Right.
But his sheer presence, his physicality, and his that kind of robotic coldness, kind of really complements that character.
Exactly,
is a great performance.
Yeah. I think Linda Hamilton is okay. She's decent enough.
Not my favourite performance, actually.
No. Obviously, the next one we're going to talk about is.
And the character isn't the strongest necessarily in this.
No, of course she's not going to be. She's not ready for this. She's still a flowery, girly.
Well, she's thrown in at the deep end. But she will become. Linda Hamilton is incredible in the sequel. What do you think of Michael Biehn as Carl Reese?
I'm going to be honest. I'm not the hugest fan of Michael Biehn. I'm really not. I don't think he's particularly the most fabulous actor. I've never seen him in a particularly oh wow, that performance was really, really good.
Michael Biehn will always be a mystery, as he should have been a massive action star. He really should have.
I know what you mean. A bit like Sienna Miller.
Yeah,
she never really reached. She was in big blockbusters, but she never reached that.
Never really got there.
Yeah,
he's got the look. He's got the vulnerability. He's got the range. He's got the physicality.
Oh yes, he should have been a leading man.
He should have. I mean, there's still time, of course, but he should have had He should have been right. He should have had a bigger career than.
I mean, to be honest, I prefer his performance in The Abyss. I love his performance in The Abyss as Coffee.
He's a really good.
He is terrifying.
It's a mystery to me that he didn't have that. And we'll talk about another actor who should have perhaps had a bigger career in the next movie.
Okay.
Cameron sort of does have that thing of hiring people who should have been we're talking about Michael Biehn in this, Edward Furlong, and then perhaps Sam Worthington.
I was going to say Avatar.
Avatar
himself.
Avatar himself.
He's never going to be a big.
Right.
He's never, is he?
So what do you think of the dummies in this and the makeup effects?
Horrible.
There's one eye. There's a self-healing kind of.
It's terrible. Do you know what? I nearly wanted to say an F-bomb then, because it's so awful.
Okay.
Really, it's like
the effects were by Stan Winston and G. Warren G.
No, so I love Stan Winston.
Excellent.
I do.
Yeah, and you could also say that even though the dummy with the eye isn't necessarily the most incredible shot, especially now, the endoskeleton design and all these
is brilliant.
It's iconic.
All that is brilliant.
Yeah, credit where it's due.
Unfortunately, that was the technology of the time.
Right.
And I think the reason you notice it a lot more in this is because you've got prolonged scene of the head.
Yes.
So you get a good chance to sort of study it and go, oh, that's
Do you
not
think
Arnold
the wig
Schwarzenegger.
is the worst aspect of that? Do you think the wig that they put onto the?
Yeah, the wig's not very nice, is it?
Everything else kind of makes sense. I mean, it's a bit robotic and everything, but the wig just kind of anyway.
There are little bits that do. It's the uncanny valley thing, isn't it?
Uncanny valley. Yeah, that's the term.
Yeah.
So it's very, very quotable, but I don't think the dialogue is really this film's strongest feature. But there are some standout lines. They're hokey, though. I wonder if the hokiness is because these lines are so ubiquitous, so quoted to death that it's become kind of.
Yeah.
But the dialogue's not particularly great. So, out of curiosity, what do you think? Because you mentioned the score a moment ago. What do you think of Brad Feidel's score in this film?
It's good. I prefer the score in the second film.
Yes, I would agree.
Yeah.
I still think the score's
It's still a good score, because obviously you're still building on it, but I don't think it has so much of the sort of, it's not as heavy.
Sure.
In this one, it's sort of more sort of synthy.
It's very full of synths. I quite like synths.
Yeah.
It's very mechanical. So I think that mechanical, futuristic kind of element
I think it really fits it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think it fits it. I'm not fond of it, but I do think it does fit the film.
Okay.
Especially like the orchestra crashes.
Yeah.
Do fit in with, metal and that sort of thing,
Sure.
So
what are your closing thoughts on Terminator?
I would say it was a huge and iconic and original film of its time.
Just maybe in some aspects haven't necessarily aged very well.
It hasn't aged very well, unfortunately.
Sure. It's still cool.
One film I can recommend for the Terminator is Hardware.
Richard Stanley's Hardware.
Yes.
Yeah, brilliant movie.
Dylan McDermott.
With great respect, I cannot remember a single frame of that movie now, but
I can remember a bit of it, but I remember it was a killer robot that was in a building.
It was like a staple of Sky Movies / Sci-Fi Channel.
Yes,
back in the
yes, of course.
90s.
This is how I saw it.
There we are.
Yeah.
Terminator 2: Judgment Day is a science fiction action sequel from James Cameron. A quick synopsis. In 2029, a brutal war rages between mankind, led by Resistance leader John Connor and the sentient Skynet AI. Skynet failed to kill Sarah Connor back in the day, so it dispatches a fancy pants prototype T-1000 Terminator to the present time to kill 10-year-old John Connor. The T-1000 is an advanced model capable of shape-shifting due to its liquid metal form. In the present time, Sarah Connor has been sectioned at the Pescadero State Hospital for being all violent and warning of an impending judgment day in which Skynet will become sentient, retaliating to mankind, trying to deactivate it by causing a nuclear blast. John Connor is living in foster care and is duly troubled, causing all manner of streetwise naughty boy chaos in town. The T-1000 arrives in the present time while John Connor dispatches a T-800 model to the present time to protect his younger Edward Furlong self. The duo ally and break Sarah Connor out of the nut house, though Sarah is understandably resistant at first because it's the same model that tried to kill her in the previous film.
I do love that scene. I love the look on her face when
that sheer horror.
That sheer horror and shock.
A big old chase ensues, and the group wind up at the Cyberdyne Systems offices with the aim of destroying the Skynet microprocessor and the mechanical hand recovered from the T-800 from the previous film, which was sort of left behind, which would ultimately lead to Skynet becoming a thing. A bombastic and brilliant sequel from head to toe. What do you think of Judgment Day? When did you first see it?
Well, I've got a story for that.
Oh, go on.
Guns N' Roses had released
Flawless. Do you see their headline in Glastonbury?
Are they?
Yeah.
Ooh.
I think it's like the Saturday night at Glastonbury. Well worth a look.
Well, all of them.
I believe so. Well, with the exception of, I think there's a couple that have deceased since then.
I mean,
right?
Slash is still going to.
I believe it's Slash and
Duff?
Axl. Yeah.
No?
I believe it's some of the members
Okay.
have since deceased, with great respect, but I believe it's the majority of the original lineup, which is probably going to be worth a look.
Yes. Anyway,
Carry
as
on.
before I was so rudely interrupted, I was 14 and I used to watch a lot of MTV.
Okay.
And Guns N' Roses You Could Be Mine was played quite a bit on it.
Sure.
And when I saw it, I couldn't believe it because I knew of the Terminator film.
Sure.
I don't think I was really that familiar with it. I mean, I'd seen it a couple of times, but I wasn't really that.
Mum had let you seen it.
I think I'd seen it by then, yeah, because I was 14.
Sure.
And I was so excited that summer to see it. I think it came out in, I want to say about August. It came out, and my mum sneaked me in to see it because it was 15. Okay. So she sneaked me in the cinema to see it, and there was loads of other kids in there that had been sneaked in. And I saw it, and I just loved it, and it was amazing.
Yes.
And it was just a big, huge summer blockbuster.
Perfect.
Loads of explosions, loads of excitement.
Loads of cool stuff for an adolescent.
Yeah, just everything a young boy wants to see, you know what I mean? It's just cool.
It's cool as hell.
It's just, I love the lighting, that sort of, light blue lighting on them a lot of the time.
Cool thing. That really also complements the metallics as well.
Yeah,
That kind of lighting.
yeah. I mean, I thought our Pats as the T-1000 was...
Bobby Paddy.
Huh?
Bobby Paddy.
Bobby... Robert Pats.
Okay, Robert Pats. So, okay, well, let's get to Robert Patrick. Why do you love Robert Patrick?
Well, for the same reason that I love Arnie in the first one.
Previous one, yeah.
He is so cold and terrifying. And what I like about this performance, though, is he tries a little bit of humanity in it. So he does a little bit, like where he sort of takes the picture of John Connor and he goes, "Good looking boy," or something like that. And it comes over as, creepy and... Slimy and nut. But he's obviously not trying to be that. He's trying to be nice and pleasant. But that's the other bit I like about him. How he's
this is what humans do.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to do it, so it all comes along worse than probably Uncanny Valley.
Yeah. It's kind of like the replies you get on.
And do you know what I love? I love the fact that the T-1000, he's not that muscular.
Okay, great.
But he's gonna chuck Arnie about a bit, isn't he?
Yeah. So I think that you just hit on one of the key themes, actually. There's a point of masculinity in this. So whereas the T-800, played by Arnold Schwarzenegger, is a human tank of an individual, the T-1000 is quite lean.
Yes.
And trim, but just as deadly.
Yeah, more deadly, I would say.
What do you think of Arnold Schwarzenegger in this series?
I think he's good. I think he's really good. I think his performance is somewhat maybe better because he gets more lines in it.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose that, it's dealing with the themes of like what is humanity and because he becomes
emotionally grows. At this one. Yeah.
And although I find some of the scenes with him and Edward Furlong a little bit lengthy and a bit boring,
absolutely perfect.
They need to. No. I understand they need to be in there.
Yeah.
Because if they're not in there, then you're just going to be like, well, I didn't feel any connection between Arnie and Edward Furlong, because they just seemed like really sort of strange with each other. So you need these scenes of these sort of intimate scenes where they're sort of a friendship is growing.
Well, see,
and
I think it's a different type. I think this is a story of family, and
Right.
I think John grows up
he
in
becomes
foster
his
care
father
without
doesn't
his
he?
mum.
Yeah.
The T800 sort of becomes a surrogate father to John, who
Yeah.
doesn't have really much of a father figure.
Yeah.
In fact, he has none, and he never met his dad. He never knew Kyle Reese, rather.
Yeah.
So the T800 is programmed to follow John's commands.
Yeah.
And so there is that kind of father-son, but also son-father
Yeah.
aspect to it as well, because the son is teaching the father
Yes.
some aspects such as don't kill people, but you know that.
And there's also an aspect like it towards the end of it where they raid the building,
Yeah.
where sort of the T800 sort of takes the father role and
Yeah,
says
yeah.
to them, I'll be back, and
Yeah, there's a interesting
sort of like
angle.
you stay there and I'll be back.
He's the father figure.
Yeah, I'll go and sort that out. One thing I did want to mention, you were saying about he has to do what he said before I forget.
He has to take the commands.
Those poor guys, right, they're walking in that bar, right, they didn't even have a long drink, whatever they were doing, because if you notice at the beginning of the scene, they are in the background going into the bar, right?
Oh, I didn't notice that.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're in the back, right, so they're only, like, him and, John and Terminator are only out there for, like, 5 minutes.
Sure.
The guys are back out because they hear, come round.
Well, you could have been buying cigarettes
And then
or
he's
something,
such a
isn't
little ass that he gets them beaten up.
it? You're calling what?
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand what you mean. There's on that point though, there's an interesting sort of angle regarding emotional attachment to that as well. So T800 is a big cold robot at the beginning who's there to just follow John's every command, but he eventually sort of comes to understand empathy and grief as a consequence.
Do you think I think the Arnie walking into the mall
Okay.
with the box of flowers and he's
Sure.
literally got guns and
Great big-
roses was a little bit on the nose.
You know that James Cameron did that for a reason.
I do love that scene actually.
But when they when they break Sarah out of the hospital, she doesn't really. Speaking of emotional attachment,
Yeah.
When they break Sarah out of the hospital, there isn't really much emotional. There's sort of an emotional detachment to her because they're in the car and she's immediately sort of patting. There's obviously that reaction to, oh my God, there's that Terminator that tried to kill me.
Yeah.
But he's now trying to help me, and he's with my son, so everything must be kind of kosher. But there's that detachment from her when she sort of tries to pat him down. She's not hugging him just to oh my God, my beloved son. She's patting him down for injuries.
Right. Yeah.
And then she has a go at him. Her detachment is heightened also when they travel to Miles Dyson's house.
Yes.
Because she's going to just off Miles Dyson in front of his whole family.
Oh, yeah, I know. That could have been a terrifying scene.
Right, so how do you feel about Linda Hamilton, her character and her performance in this film?
I think her performance is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Perfect.
She buffed up. I mean,
She's
she really buffed
Glorious.
up.
It's probably a career best.
I mean, no disrespect. They were saying how great Natalie Portman looked as Thor, right? How she buffed up, right?
Sure.
I didn't
It's quite
actually
forgettable,
notice
I think.
that she. I didn't actually
Sure.
notice that she had really. I mean, when I saw Linda Hamilton in that film after seeing her in Terminator,
Yeah.
because I don't think she was in much more apart from like that Beauty and the Beast TV show years ago.
I don't know.
It was amazing when you saw her. Because
Sure.
when you saw her again, you're like,
Such a transformation.
oh my God, like you're all muscular and
Yeah.
you're lean and you're.
Just embodies that character.
Yeah. I mean, she must have really put in some work for that. And her performance is so different as well. It's so aggressive.
Yeah. She's grown.
Yeah.
She understands that
A
character.
really aggressive performance from her a lot of the time. I mean, really, she's on the verge of really violence and just breaking down. And I think that scene at Miles Dyson's house shows that.
Yeah.
That it goes from violence to literally her just breaking down.
Yeah. She's
because of
obsessed with the mission.
yes, yeah,
And
yeah.
she's, yeah.
And
so
I
focused.
want to talk about Miles Dyson.
We want to say, but I
Yeah.
just want to make, while we're on Linda Hamilton, there's a nice little sort of gender role switch going on.
Right.
The toughest soldier here is a female.
Yes. Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
However, she doesn't save the day because the T800 in sort of comes in between, sort of intervenes.
Yes.
And which ultimately I think kind of bolsters that masculinity angle.
Okay.
So what do you think of Joe Morton as Miles Dyson, the director of special projects at Cyberdyne Systems?
I love him.
He's the most interesting character in this.
I love him.
Yeah.
I think he's really good, and I love his performance at the end.
MVP.
You know the where he gets wobble shot and he gets his pant on. I love that bit. I want to die that way. I literally want to die that way, panting, going.
I was hoping you're going to die in my arms, Jayson. So this is super intelligent, empathetic, and level-minded family guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
the
think
MVP
I
of
feel
the whole
so
thing.
sorry for him because him and his family are so terrified, and he's so terrified, and he doesn't know what because he's like saying, I don't know what I've done. Literally, I don't know what I'm supposed
what
to
you're
feel.
about to do.
Yeah. But it's like somebody going to somebody like Hitler and saying, you are going to do this.
Baby Hitler.
Baby Hitler, isn't it? It actually is, isn't it? It is Baby Hitler, really, in a way.
Aspect to it, I suppose. One moment he's being assassinated, the next moment he's leading the siege to destroy.
But it shows he's a really good guy because he's going to destroy
really
everything he's worked on.
He gets it. He understands where this is
shows
going.
he's a great guy.
The threat of being assassinated kind of really. Oh, yeah, we are in this situation.
Yeah.
So, what do you think of Edward Furlong?
I do like the way he dies as well. As I said, a wobble shot
on.
and that, and panting.
Well, that's the thing. I only picked it up in the recent watch because I watched it about a week ago, 2 weeks ago before I later this. Occurred to me that he's a black man who is armed, and a load of policemen swarm into.
Oh no! Oh yeah.
I just get that idea in my head as well.
Well, it could be
because you know how that kind of works.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, what do you think of Edward Furlong as John Connor?
Well. That's complicated because I think he was a good actor for the role.
Yes,
but I don't like Edward Furlong.
Breakout performance. He's streetwise, young, and vulnerable. But much like Michael Biehn, and indeed Avatar, as you call him, he should have enjoyed a much greater career.
He
was great in American History X.
He actually was, yeah. He was.
It's a shame that his career probably hasn't panned out, and I kind of hope that he does enjoy a great career in his, in the future.
I understand that, that he's supposed to be a little arse in it.
Oh, he's perfect.
But what I mean is I don't like... I mean, I think he's appropriate as the character, but I don't really like his character. I mean,
because he's such a little scrote.
Yes. I don't like Edward Furlong in this because of the way that he's...
The performance is really good.
His performance is great.
Really nail that character.
Oh, yeah, and that's the way John Connor probably would be if he was growing up without a mother and stuff. Yeah. I mean, like with his little ginger friend with his mullet, listening to You Could Be Mine over and over again, because if you notice all the scenes, it's a different part of the record. So they're just listening to that record over and over again. Yeah. It's just, they must just loved it.
Well, that's a really good record.
It was a really big record at the time. It still sounds good.
Around that time, I wasn't in Nirvana. I was on a different course altogether. But
I was heavily into Guns N' Roses at one time.
Fair enough.
Use Your Illusion, 1 and 2. Yeah.
So what do you think of Earl Bone as Dr. Silverman, the doctor?
I hate that guy. I hate that character.
I love him.
I really hate that character. He reminds me of
Scumbag.
A bit of... You remember that horrible psychiatrist that was in Miracle on 34th Street? In the old one.
Yeah.
From 42, I think 42.
Something like that, yeah.
And he's got he keeps touching his eyebrows. He's got like a fiddle with his eyebrows. He's an eyebrow twitcher and he twitches his moustache and his eyebrow and he's horrible. And he just wants to get Santa Claus locked up in in a mental that's exactly what this doctor reminds me of.
Sure.
It looks like he takes great pleasure, especially when he says, to Sarah, like, "Oh yeah, well, I think you're saying what we want to hear," and
it's very supercilious.
Yeah, and cares. I think he gets pleasure in the fact that she's not.
I think he
he gets a kick out of it.
He gets a kick
the power
thing.
Yeah,
I do love that role though.
Oh, I think he's great in it. I mean, I love that whole scene where she's got him up there with and she's like taking him hostage, and I think that's a brilliant scene and everything.
So what do you think of the? Well, actually, just before just other themes as well. So like violence for peace, because there's a lot of violence that is carried out in the name of. I'm going to be honest. I
wish a lot of these police guys in it had been shot and killed.
It's weird as well because you've got that conflict of John being really anti-violence.
Yeah, which is unusual. It's weird, isn't it?
So much violence in the name of peace.
Yeah,
and John Connor is so anti-violence, but there's still so much.
Yeah, he's like, you can't kill anybody, and that does take away my fun a bit because
it's an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, because you watch the T-800, mole that with the chain gun thing.
Sure.
The minigun, and he's shooting and you're thinking, oh, this would have been so good if he was just like mowing cops down. You know what I mean?
It's a story of destiny as well.
Yeah.
So because we all know what kind of is leading up to.
And I do like the callbacks in it that they do. Similar to Star Wars, where you get the. Yep. You get the "Come with me if you want to live," which Carl Reese also says to Sarah in the, and you also get the "Get out."
Get out!
Yeah, he says get out on the truck, doesn't he? And the T-1000s, it goes get out. We've got to go to the chopper.
What do you think of the groundbreaking visual effects?
Brilliant.
Because there's different tiers.
I'll tell you what, I've got to be slightly aggressive here.
Oh, please.
So I'm going to be aggressive.
Careful.
I do not like the use of the green screens when they are driving in the car away from the institute.
Okay.
They clearly are green screens. Or it's the same sort of thing that Tarantino uses in Kill Bill 2. Reprojection thing.
Yeah.
But he uses that on purpose to show that he's done that on purpose.
Well, he does it on purpose because he's Quentin Tarantino.
But Jim Cameron did not do this on purpose. He didn't do it on purpose.
Sure. I don't.
They're crap.
Personally.
And this is a film that was made in 1992.
How do you feel about the rear projection in like Star Wars then, which is used to death in Star Wars?
Well, it looks quite good.
Okay.
I don't think it looks too bad. But
just in this instance,
it really takes me out of it because those effects that like the T-1000 effects are brilliant.
Perfect.
Especially when you're looking back and you're going, this is like a 1992 film.
The CGI really does hold up.
Yeah.
In 2023 when we're recording this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were really, really pioneering.
And you would expect them not to, wouldn't you?
CGI handled by ILM, I believe. Yeah.
And you really would expect them not to in when you're thinking about how many years we've had.
But it's
how the effects could have taken on
It's also a beautiful blend of visual effects as well because you've still got like these incredible practical and makeup effects handled by Stan Winston.
Yes.
Again.
Yeah.
Beautiful mix.
But I love those bits where he shoots the head open. Yeah. And that's a practical effect where it's all Well,
when he pulls off his arm to show
that's brilliant.
Miles Dyson.
Isn't that brilliant?
Incredible.
I love that scene. And I was going to say that bit at the end where the T-1000 is exploded.
Yeah.
I think that reminds me of The Thing.
Yes,
definitely. Definitely a callback to like The Thing, and all the
James Cameron knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
As you say,
I even love the special effect at the end where the face appears and then it sort of rolls into itself.
It morphs, doesn't it?
I mean when the face is like laying on the lava.
Yeah.
And then the face sort of eats itself. And then the face goes back to a face again, and then just dissipates. I think that's brilliant.
I watched how they did that. So obviously it's not real lava or anything. It's water,
right?
But with like coloured lighting and all the rest of it.
Well, I wouldn't know.
Onto it. Well,
don't tell me this stuff.
Sure.
I don't want. I want the magic. It's Industrial Light Magic.
Shout out as well as to the to Fantasy Film Effects, who also worked on
Dennis Muren worked on this as well, didn't he?
Yeah,
Dennis Muren from Star Wars.
They also worked on True Lies and Last Action Hero, as well as Gremlins and Tremors. Just some amazing sort of miniature work and puppetry and things like that. Just different level.
I mean, even that scene where the bomb goes off is still very, very good.
Perfect.
Where Sarah's sort of like she's screaming and all the flesh comes off. I think that's great. That's brilliant.
I love that scene.
Yeah. And I tell you what,
I may have like worn out the family VHS just rewinding that scene. The siege, where they just tank the building.
Yes.
And obviously the climax.
Yes, where they go into the metalworks.
In the factory,
the steelworks.
The steelworks.
Yeah.
Different level.
Yeah.
Perfect sequel.
Yeah.
Can you think of any other perfect sequels?
Perfect. Yes. The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Godfather 2.
No, I don't agree. I don't think that Godfather 2 is better than Godfather.
I wouldn't say it's better than Godfather, but I would say it's.
Oh, you mean a good?
Sequel.
Oh, okay. All right.
Aliens is a perfect sequel.
Oh, yes, a perfect sequel. Oh, sorry, I thought you meant a film that was better than this.
I would probably agree that The Dark Knight is a better film than Batman Begins.
I think so, and I think this is a much better film than The Terminator.
Just before we wrap up, Brad Fiedel returned for this score. It's a much more mature, grounded, brooding, and brassy.
Yeah.
There's a bit more orchestral stuff in this. What do you think of the score?
I think it's brilliant. Yeah. I've got to tell you something. You've made a great tune when, I don't know if you remember this, but we went to see Terminator Genesis.
Unfortunately.
And do you remember, I think there was some blokes behind us and they were slapping their thighs to the
I don't remember that.
They were.
Okay.
When can you get a theme that somebody can actually tap it out? Yeah, that and it always comes into. I mean, whenever you see that,
though, doesn't it?
Huh?
It makes a difference.
Yes, because you put it all together. You see the Terminator skull. Whenever you see that iconic Terminator skeleton, suddenly in your brain, that's what I mean.
Absolutely. We were talking last week about how Beetlejuice has an iconic theme.
I mean, it's
to
like
it.
you see Indiana Jones, and the first thing you hear is yeah.
Well,
You see what I mean?
Yeah, you see the hat, you see the whip.
Yes,
Yeah.
it all comes together in this wonderful.
I'd love to do an Indiana Jones episode.
Well, I'd be prepared to do it.
I know you hate those.
I
movies,
don't
though.
hate them. I don't hate them. They're just not my.
The
they're
new
not my
one
thing.
is coming out, and I might have to drag you to see it.
I am going to have to see it anyway. So my wife is going to drag me anyway. So we might as well go and see
all
it.
together in one big happy family.
I think my mum would come and see that too because
Bring
she
your
loves.
family, yeah, me,
she loves
your
Harrison
mum,
Ford.
young Cheryl. It'd be great.
It's one of her
You'll just be
menses.
sitting in the corner thinking, "Oh God, I hate this." So, verdict.
Verdict: this movie was, is, and probably always will be big.
This movie is.
It was big when it came out. It's still big.
Yeah, I'd put any of other. I'd recommend certainly any other of James Cameron's movies.
This was one of the films that I went to see, and I was just from my childhood that I can think of that I was just so excited to see.
Yeah,
I
get excited to see this now, and I've seen it 100.
I mean, I was super excited to see Gremlins 2 when it came out.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was super excited to see this.
Gremlins episode.
Yeah.
Jayson,
Super
Gremlins
excited
episode.
to, like when the Star Wars prequels came out, because I'd missed them.
Definitely, of course.
I was so excited, and this was one of those films. You don't get like this 6 months before it comes out, them launch a trailer, and that's all you know about it.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
Now you find out too much to do with production, and too much to do with this actor was
also
caught scene.
bit too social media.
Yeah,
stuff
that's
at the
what I mean.
moment
That's
as well, where
ruined
it's
it all.
It's every time you load up your Twitter or your Instagram or anything like that,
Exactly.
if
When you
there's
were a
an
kid,
ad
you'd go,
for it
you'd
and you
have the
think,
little cinema
man.
book with the coming soon films,
Right.
and then you'd see July, and you'd go, "Oh my God, Batman 1989 is coming out." Oh my God, I didn't know this.
Well, it's not only that though. It's like you'd see like a trailer for a whatever, or you pick up like a movie book or something like. Oh, Police Academy 7 is coming out.
Oh,
I'm
Police
really-
Academy. Yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
Like-
Yeah, you get so excited just to see what was previewing. Wouldn't
Well,
you?
I hope you get excited
And-
for our next episode.
and don't forget, also people were going to the cinema literally to watch trailers back then.
What?
Do you remember?
Well, there was
Back in, like, the
Phantom Menace. I know
The
there were
Phantom
people-
Menace. People were going to see films
Yeah,
just to see that. There
It
was
like
people.
Meet Joe Black or something or other. People were actually seeing that to see.
People were going to the cinema to see the trailer for the Batman '89.
Were they?
Yeah, they were excited to see it in cinemas.
It was just
It was a wonderful time, really. If you...
At the same time, it does kind of save you a fortune because you just whiz that up on your phone on YouTube now.
Well, that's true, isn't it? So...
You don't have to plan your evening around Meet Joe Black.
Yeah,
you
you just
see the Phantom
Oh,
Menace
do you remember
trailer
that when you had to plan
30
your evening around
seconds or
watching a
whatever.
film, and you had to make sure everything was, anything you wanted done because you were going to sit down and watch it. You couldn't just get up and have a drink. You know what I mean? I'll just pour myself another drink.
But on the negative side, that saturation of things is just it kind of takes.
I think we know too much. I think we know too much about movies these days.
Yeah.
And it spoils the magic of it. That's what I think.
I would agree.
And I don't
I
like
think
to know too much about stunts and
that's a good
makeup.
point. I
Yeah.
think that's a good point.
Because it is magic. It is industrial light and magic. It really is magic. And the things these people do, you look at, and I want to think to myself, how the hell did they do that? I don't want to look behind the curtain, at the wizard.
I find that really interesting.
I mean, not that I'm saying I don't think that people should want to see it, but for me, no, thank you. I mean, makeup effects I don't mind too much, but I do find them quite fascinating.
Yeah,
but stunts and things like that, I don't like to know too much of how they do
kind
it.
of like knowing how the sauce is made,
Yeah.
if you will.
Okay, all right. Well,
But,
fair enough.
yeah,
but-
fair enough. Each
yes.
time, different strokes, different blokes. Join us again, won't you, as we'll be discussing two films from Lana and Lily. Is it Wachowski or Wachowski?
Wachowski, I thought.
Wachowski?
I thought it was
Okay.
Wachowski. I think.
Wachowski.
We'll have to ask them.
Yeah, they're big fans of the show. We'll just hit them
I
up
got to tell
later.
you, I'm so excited about this one. I'm going to be here next week. Definitely.
Okay, The Matrix from 1999 and 2008's Speed Racer. You can find us on Letterboxd. I am Rat Bastard. You are.
Kerja_Relon.
And how's that?
KERJA_RELON.
You can find us on Instagram.
You can. That's Cinemattraction_podcast. Also, you can find us on, obviously, on YouTube.
On YouTube.
And would you like to click and subscribe? And also, if you are loving our podcast, please give us a like, because it means a lot, and we know who's listening. We know that you're enjoying what we're putting out.
And don't be
and
afraid.
it makes
Don't be
it
shy. Give us a comment.
Yeah,
Let
drop
us
a
know,
comment,
'cause
even if
it will
it's-
be me responding though.
Constructive criticism is always
let us know what we're not
welcomed.
doing
But please be kind.
And be excellent to each other.
Yes, be excellent.
Okay, love you. Bye bye.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Arbor.